Bengals training camp starts this week, and the team made a flurry of roster moves, including adding a familiar face and a former first-round pick. Let's react to all of it right now on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hi again, everyone, and welcome into CBT. I'm James Rapien of BengalsTalk.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, join the 56,000 plus Bengals fans that have hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you follow wherever you get your podcast, because training camp is here, and there's going to be plenty of times where it's an audio-only interview, where I throw my recorder in there and I'm getting audio that you're not going to necessarily see video of. And guess what? You want all the Bengals coverage you can get. I get that. So check us out on Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Today's video brought to you by American Home Tech. Check them out at AmericanHomeTech.com for all of your home improvement needs. And let's dive in, because boy, oh boy, when I saw the news today that Desmond Ridder, former Cincinnati Bearcats star quarterback Desmond Ridder, was coming to Cincinnati, I thought, man, this is a cool story. This is a lot of fun. He's going to come in and he's going to compete for that third quarterback job. And you hope that's all it was. Well, turns out he's not just competing for that. He is it. Logan Woodside released, Desmond Ridder signed. That's huge news, but not the biggest news. I think the biggest news about this, even though there's so many training camp storylines when it comes to Ridder, is Taven Bryan. The Bengals have added a defensive tackle, and they've added a defensive tackle that has experience. They've added a defensive tackle that has first-round pedigree. They've added a defensive tackle that could make a difference for them this season. Former first-round pick Taven Bryan is a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. He appeared in all 17 games for the Colts last year, had 1 sack, had spent the past 2 years in Indianapolis, 3 sacks combined in 34 games, but is someone over that time, 44 tackles, had 7 tackles for loss, and is someone that has been there, done that. He's played in 113 games since being drafted, has started a bunch of games, and that's all you're looking for here. If you're the Bengals, you need a guy that can almost be an innings eater, someone that's going to give you a little juice every now and then. And I certainly think Taven Bryan is capable of doing that. Now we'll see, but at this stage of the offseason, to get a guy again with first round pedigree, he was the 18th overall pick, or 29th overall pick in the 2018 draft. And so, well, he was drafted behind Billy Price, but has had a little more success than him. But 4 years with Jacksonville, a year with Cleveland in 22. And I remember either here or on Locked On talking about him, certainly in 22. And I think this offseason we mentioned him a little bit as someone that you could be interested in. Well, here you go. You get a guy in Taven Bryan who has played a lot of snaps, has quality experience over the past 3 years, had over 600 snaps for Cleveland 2 years ago. And then, or 3 years ago, 2 years ago, had over 340 snaps and then 340 again for Indy. So someone who wasn't a huge part of things, but was certainly a regular on their defensive line and in their defensive line rotation. And that's what the Bengals need alongside of Chris Jenkins, alongside McKinley Jackson. Obviously, you have BJ Hill, and it's worth noting, he was nicked up during the offseason program. Where is he at? We'll see this week. And then obviously you have someone that you signed, you feel really good in TJ Slayton at nose tackle. So this makes sense to me. It doesn't mean that he's going to play a ton or that he's going to make the team, but I think he's got a real shot to make the team and could be someone that does matter. And so we'll see if that ends up happening. The Bengals weren't done there. They made other moves. I already mentioned Desmond Ridder. I will react to that as well coming up next. Today's video is brought to you by American Home Tech. Over 8,000 happy homeowners have trusted American Home Tech, and it's easy to see why. They're your local experts in roofing, home improvements, handling everything from roofing, siding to gutters, windows, doors, decks, interior remodeling, and so much more. Check them out today at AmericanHomeTech.com to schedule your free consultation with the local experts you can trust. Again, that's AmericanHomeTech.com. All right, let's get to these other additions. And I mentioned Ridder, so we'll get to the other ones because you might not know, but McTelvin Agim, and I might be butchering his name completely, but it's Agim, out of the University of Arkansas, a former third-round pick out of 2020 from the Broncos. So another guy with decent pedigree. He's only played in 18 career games, and his last one was in Indianapolis in 22. So this is more of a camp body, I would say. But certainly someone that can help. And that's why, since they signed 2 defensive tackles, I do wonder about BJ Hill's health. Just, it's on my radar. Could be something, could be nothing. Maybe they just want some experience in there for camp. But I do think Taven Bryan has a real shot to make the roster. I could not say the same thing about the Arkansas product. McTelvin Agim is what I'm going to go with, and I'm probably butchering it. The Bengals, to make all these moves, they released Logan Woodside. They waived Tayshawn Manning. They also signed Andrew Raym. And Raym's a second-year player out of Oklahoma. It's interesting there because you have Seth McLaughlin, who's big Ohio State fans know him, big Ohio State star, coming off of a really serious injury, not going to start training camp on time. We'll see what happens there. But this could be a guy that can be an innings eater late in the preseason while you want to try maybe a Matt Lee at center. Or maybe you want to try some of these different combinations offensive line-wise. Maybe he gives you some flexibility there. Overall, I think it's more of a camp body than anything. Maybe he threatens from a practice squad standpoint. But out of all these guys, I think that Desmond Ridder is better than Logan Woodside. So the Bengals have upgraded at quarterback. Woodside probably isn't making the roster. I don't think Ridder's making the roster necessarily, but he gives you a guy who started 18 games and has been a starter as he's entering his 4th year in the NFL, even if it wasn't super effective. He has more experience than Logan Woodside. I think he's more talented than Logan Woodside. Taven Bryan gives you a real guy that can be something for you in the defensive trenches. You needed that. I think we all agree that they could have used that. Would have been nice if they signed him a few weeks ago, but hey, guess what? You get him in here before camp. I like the Bryan signing. The rest of this feels like depth. I get it. Depth matters. Doesn't bother me. Doesn't hurt me. It is not something that I'm going to complain about because depth is important, especially this time of year when you're practicing a bunch of days in a row and you're going to have to play 4 quarters of preseason games. You got 12 quarters of preseason football. I get it. So overall, I like these moves. I think Taven Bryan is going to matter. I think Taven Bryan is going to make the team adjust accordingly. I also think Desmond Ridder is going to be a QB3. Kind of goes without saying. Not saying he's going to push Jake Browning or anything like that, but QB3 could matter, especially if in those situations where he's on the practice squad and he gets elevated. I think that's what he would be. But who knows? Maybe they like him enough to keep him on the roster in some scenarios, and he could push for a roster spot, and then he becomes your emergency quarterback at QB3. You never know. Who knows? But overall, I like what the Bengals did today. Excited about the Taven Bryan signing. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Let's get to 60,000 subscribers, by the way, before the end of training camp. Training camp starts Wednesday. We're going to hear from Mike Brown on Monday. We're going to hear from Zach Taylor. We're going to hear from a bunch of different coaches, Duke Tobin as well. I'm excited. Training camp is here. I hope you're excited. Please support our sponsor, AmericanHomeTech.com, for all of your home improvement needs. And for Andrew Foxmiller, I'm James Rapien. Happy Sunday. Football is here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk.